back to the Inner Podcast here where you can embrace your inner nerd. I'm Brandon, your first host.
And I'm Aaron.
What's after?
What's after? This is where we have a conversation.
Oh, okay. Cool. How are you, Aaron?
I'm okay. I'm tired. I haven't been sleeping well this week, but
I hear that.
I'm okay. How are you?
Tired. I literally just got off work.
You started a new job this week.
I did. It's not a bad job, but for a first week, it's a lot of information.
You got a kid. Oh, quick disclaimer. There is background noise. We're working on getting new mics, so we're doing with these lav mics for now.
These are new lav mics, and this is our first time officially using them.
It's purely just it's not, the installation sucks. Soundproof. There's no soundproofing or anything. We're right next to heavy traffic, and this is just the coziest way to do it as of right now. So if it's too distracting, we can do it somewhere else next time. If it's too distracting for us, same thing. But it is what it is for now. Plus, we're just having a conversation, and hell, maybe if it's quiet enough, it'll just be nice ambient noise.
Maybe.
But so words, Aaron. So this is episode 1. We did film a different episode right after the release of Alien Romulus.
Yes.
So that was back in October.
Yeah. We talked
of
about
2024.
Yeah, we talked about a couple things on that podcast.
Yeah,
that episode.
We talked about Deadpool and Wolverine. We talked about The Crow, and we went really heavy into talking about Alien. That was kind of our test episode, our pilot of sorts, or episode 0, whatever we called it. I do still intend on posting that, but I don't know why. I'm sure I'll do the same disclaimer when we do post that episode. But if anything, that'll just be more for flair, or just to have something to post. It's not anything official.
It would have been nice to post at the time, just because of how relevant the conversation was.
Right.
But I think it's still good to have. But I mean, even this episode is going to run into it. But it was a starter episode. There's a lot of flaws.
Right.
We didn't know what we were going to talk about.
We're not podcasters, so we don't have that podcast banter. And I'm more used to very scripted videos. And
yeah, and I play video games.
Yeah.
And we're also not funny, so.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, I know. I try my best to be really funny on my channel, but it doesn't hit well. Or I'll do something that's not supposed to be funny, and people laugh at it.
Like Shy Lie.
Or the slippers thing, which I get reminded of all the time.
Yeah. Oh gosh. But I mean, we're new to it. This is the YouTube journey for both of us just started
about a little over a year ago.
It's almost a year and a half now.
No, it's almost 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, mine will be in June.
Because my wrap-up video for 2024 was a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're getting close.
Right, so it's about the same. So it'll be June-ish. That'll be 2 years for the both of us.
Right.
I do need to start getting more content out. I did say on my channel that I'd be making more frequent videos, which I intend to, but I also promised myself more projects, including something else that I don't want to get into right now. But
yeah. I told myself last week I was going to record 2 or 3 videos, but then I got crippling sick. I didn't want to move or do anything but just lay on the couch and watch TV for 3 days.
Right.
And then after that, there's something that prevented me from doing it, but
But about this podcast, Innerd, yes, it is. I'm sure we talked about it in the last episode, but just in case,
I'm not gonna lie, it's been so long.
I know. I don't. The only things I really remember is we talked about those 3 movies. We talked about a comment on my Crow video.
I insulted someone.
Right. They'll hear more about it when I actually post it. But that, like, I only remember like specific discussions. But anyways, this whole podcast, yes, it does seem very bandwagony to be doing the podcast because podcasts are like the thing right now. Everyone's doing podcasts. It's like, I'm not gonna lie, it's lazy form content where you get to just plant yourself down with a microphone and you get to just have a conversation for an hour or so.
Yeah, but what would you rather have? A podcast of 2 people having a genuine interaction, or what I consider lazy content by people who just like use AI generated stuff. They post it all over YouTube and then they make millions.
Like the faceless content or
and
whatever
it's all like
called.
fake information and stuff.
Right. No, that's true. I mean, podcasts definitely, if you care about it, do take more effort to do. But we always found ourselves wanting to talk about specific stuff, and we do on a very regular basis just go on these long tangents about what I think are very interesting things.
Oh, no, for sure.
And what I hope are original thoughts and opinions. And we just figured, why not just kind of combine that into like what we're already doing with our own YouTube channels and just make a podcast.
I can't count how many times we would be in like a conversation that's gone on for like 3 or 4 hours, and we're just like, this would be a great podcast conversation.
I mean, even Blake told me on our way up to a camping trip.
Blake is a family member.
Yeah. But on our way to a campsite, I was just rambling about people driving with their headlights on during the day and how distracting it was. And he was like, you need a podcast. And I was like, well, you know what? We're doing that actually. But I do have a few. Today, we don't have a specific topic. Maybe we'll kind of build one depending on the things that I have listed out.
Mm-hmm.
There is one thing I kind of want to just get out of the way. Not in like a disrespectful way, because it's something that I think is rather important. I just want to do this first because I don't want to end on a somber note later.
Right.
David Lynch passed away today.
What?
Yeah. 73 years old, I believe. But for those who may not know, or maybe just the name doesn't sound familiar, the guy who's responsible for the original Dune movie, Twin Peaks, Eraserhead, The Elephant Man, very well-renowned director, a genius, some would call. Just a very original, singular artist that, blessed the big screen for years, generations.
Yeah.
Unfortunately passed away today. We're recording on January 16th, 2025. So the news I just saw like right before we started recording.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't been on my phone all day.
Yeah. David, you did a lot for the industry, and you're a huge inspiration to thousands, probably millions of people. And your work will continue to inspire for generations to come. And we'll definitely miss you. Yeah, I mean, I was actually just thinking about the original Dune, because I watched Dune Part 2, and I was, I've never seen the original one all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen like the first half, but it was a long time ago with Dad. Which kind of sucks for me to say, seeing that like I'm, talking about how much of a inspiration David Lynch is, but of all the movies and things that I have watched from him, I have not seen the original Dune all the way through in one sitting. But I just wanted to say that,
That's fair.
But yeah. That amongst a few things happened today. So we got that off to the side. Again, I'm not trying to brush that off by any means, but
it was definitely like worth talking about.
Yeah, I didn't want to like. Yeah, I just it's someone who. It's a life that is past, and it's just fair to acknowledge that person.
Right.
But some other topics I do have for us today. Quite a few things happened today. One of which is something that you're probably going to have more of an opinion about than I do.
Oh,
the official trailer to Until Dawn, the movie.
I saw. Well, no, I didn't see like the trailer. Like
like the director teaser thing from like a couple days ago. Yeah,
that's what I saw. But I am aware of like what it is and what it's about.
Right. How do you feel about it?
Honestly, I don't have an issue with it because, so I didn't feel this way before, but now I feel this way. There's certain franchises that they have so much foundation to where like when you make that kind of change and adjustment, it's like it's off. It doesn't feel right. But for something like Until Dawn, where the only thing that it really had was one game. And like one story, after they came out with this new idea of Until Dawn, for those of you who don't know, the game that came out in like 2000 forever ago, Until Dawn was a story about like a bunch of like young adults who are in a cabin, and they encounter a somewhat accurate, not like realistic, but a somewhat accurate depiction of like Wendigos. And it's a decision based thing. So like they really emphasize the butterfly effect. So like every decision you make.
2015.
Oh,
why does it feel older than that?
I don't know. But anyways, but yeah, like you make decisions, and like I don't even know how many endings, because you can there's so many different ways that the story can go, because there's even a way you can even save everyone to where no one dies, which seems almost impossible, especially if you've played the game. But anyways, they really wanted to emphasize some of that like decision building and like multiple endings. So the new version of Until Dawn, which is a movie, right? It's a movie?
Yeah.
It's a bunch of young adults. I don't know if it's a cabin.
No,
but they're like in a confined space. But this time, people will die multiple times, and then like the night resets or something. So then they're all alive. And so instead of having like multiple endings, they have multiple ways each person is going to die because they reset or something like that.
Yeah. See. Yeah. So the movie, it's like they die and the time resets, the evening resets, and they're given a chance to live again, but the twist is that every time it resets, there's a different monster.
Right. Like it's a different genre of horror.
Right.
So it's going to be
that's how the director described it, but like plot wise, it's like there's always a different monster or there's a different killer or.
But what I was going to say before, like why I don't have an issue with this change is because now I see Until Dawn kind of like the Twilight Zone, to where it's like,
okay,
there's still a theme to Until Dawn, but you can have different stories. Like what they could have done is like the people who made Until Dawn, and they made a whole series of different games after Until Dawn.
Right.
But like those could have been Until Dawn in a way, because each one's like a different story.
Yeah.
But what they did with those games is kind of how I see like Until Dawn, like the first game and this movie is like each one is like the same premise and like same theme, but told in a different way. And I don't know. That's kind of how I see it. So I don't necessarily have an issue with it. Because especially for how detailed the game is, I don't think I'd want a show or a movie just retelling the game.
That I agree with. But I don't like it. The reason I don't like it is because first off, okay, wait. I'll just continue with that. So, first off, it's not gritty enough.
Okay.
Which seems weird because it does look like it's gory, you know, but which it needs to be. But the fact that it's like a completely different premise, something about the movie looks too clean. Maybe it's just because like in a video game they can make it look however they want to.
Yeah.
But something about the movie and like the scenario, like things just look too clean. The camera work, in my opinion, just looks rather generic, not cheap, but it's not creative. Like there's not like an artistic flair that this movie could use.
Yeah. I've noticed that with a lot of projects lately. There's one in specific that I'll get to after this topic.
And I understand why they're calling it Until Dawn, because they have to survive until dawn.
And that's how the game was. Like the game was, but like, it all took place.
But it's night. Like in the game, it's like an untold thing.
True.
You know, it's like they just it was just like you as the player just understood like the only way these characters are going to get out is if they survive until dawn.
Right.
But in the movie, they like throw that in your face. It's like, oh, they have to survive until dawn. And, you know, the fact that it's like a different narrative and different characters and a different situation, I would have just preferred that instead of calling it Until Dawn, they just gave it a new name. And it was part of, like, it was like understood that it was part of the, like, this universe. You know, instead of it being like the next entry of games that they're making, it's a movie that adds on to that universe. And it could have a new name. And then it would just like, maybe if they really wanted to, they could throw in like a nod or like an Easter egg when the kid says we have to survive until dawn. You know? Because there's some, it's just something about like Until Dawn, especially for people who are like in the game world zeitgeist or whatever. Like there's a very specific image we have of Until Dawn. These people, I don't know, it's just one of those things where like I can advocate you know, doing a movie adaptation or readaptation, whether it's movies, games, so on and so forth, of something else to bring that particular thing into that audience. I understand all of that. Sometimes it's a little overdone. Some situations it's okay, whatever. This one, because of the fact that it's just Until Dawn slapped onto a completely different story, And the fact that there's no creative language in the way the movie's shot or so on and so forth, it just feels, that's when it feels lazy.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like they're trying to monetize the title Until Dawn by making a completely different movie that's called Until Dawn.
Right.
And I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Mm-hmm.
From my understanding, and I'm pretty sure you're aware, this is the first movie of PlayStation like movies. It's called like PlayStation Studios. They announced it recently. There's going to be like a Horizon Zero Dawn movie. There's going to be a oh boy,
Ghost of Tsushima.
There is going to be a Ghost of Tsushima. They announced a few. I forgot what all the different titles were.
I think
but it's kind of going off of, I wouldn't call it excitement because no one was really excited for it. The Uncharted movie, they're kind of going off of that. And it kind of shows because Uncharted to me looked rather generic. So this movie looks kind of generic.
Okay. Slightly diving into the Uncharted movie real quick.
Okay.
Because, as you know, and as you guys are about to find out, I loved the Uncharted games. Like, when I first got my PlayStation, it came with the collection of the first 3 games.
Right.
Remastered. But I loved it so much. That's when I fell in love with Naughty Dog, and I fell in love with the franchise. It's so good. It's so well told, and Nolan North, obviously, like, he adds a certain flair to Nathan Drake.
Yeah.
So when they announced a movie was being made, when they announce a movie being made about anything that's already existing, like a video game or whatnot being retold, there's always the question of like, okay, this could either go really well or really bad. Uncharted, they did the thing to where it's like, of course, they chose actors who, I don't want to say generic choices, but like, they're clearly like, okay, these people are popular and they're really booming right now. That's the only reason why we're choosing them. It has nothing to do with the fact that these characters could possibly fit the role, because they chose Mark Wahlberg as Sully.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys have played the game, but Mark Wahlberg as Sully was the dumbest thing they could have done.
Right.
There's so many people they could have chosen for that. Tom Holland, I like Tom Holland as an actor. I think he has great potential for many characters. It just depends on how they write him. Like when it comes to Spider-Man, I think he could have been one of the greatest Spider-Man of all time. But it's strictly just how Marvel wrote him is where I have an issue with it.
Yeah.
Same thing goes for Nathan Drake, because he does kind of show a lot of resemblance to a younger Nathan Drake, especially if you look at like Uncharted 3 when you get to play as him as a teenager.
Yeah.
But that's not the Nathan Drake they were going for. They tried to throw in like a couple combinations of like Uncharted 3 and 2, and it just didn't work that well. And he didn't feel like Nathan Drake. Like, he said all the right things, but like he didn't have that same kind of flair. Like, even Nolan North was in that movie, but it was strictly just for cameo purposes.
Right.
But yeah. But that's why I'm afraid for these new Sony movies. Like Until Dawn, I really can't say, because it might be good. But like you were saying,
you're right.
It doesn't seem gritty. Like, something about it, it seems too clean.
Like, purely aside from the fact that it's a horror movie,
right?
It appears to be gory. It's got all of the. It's kind of like, it smells like a horror movie. It's, it sounds like a horror movie, but it doesn't look like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Wait, did I say look?
You said look, like it doesn't look like a horror movie.
I Okay, but
I know what you're trying to say.
my point is,
It comes
that
off as a horror movie.
It just like it has all of the ingredients for a horror movie, but it's when you look at it, it's just too clean looking. It's like how horror movies were in like the 2000s. You know, they always try to start it off like super bright and colorful and stuff, and like it takes you into the dark and gritty. But even the inside of the house isn't like scary looking. It's not super menacing. Sure, when the lights are off and a person's walking around, that can be a little creepy. Yeah. But like, what's cool about the game is that, and they even, you know, that studio does it with all the other games, and The Quarry comes to mind too. It's like, even when it's sunny outside and whatnot, everything's just off a little bit. It's not super clean looking. It's not super well kept. There's always something, whether it's aged or weathered down, whatever it could be. So it's like everything fits together. It's cohesive. But this is just like, it does that like 2000s trope where it's like all the characters look really clean looking. The house looks really clean. And
there's a movie that I think is the perfect example of like what is done right about certain horror movies, to like kind of like draw you into like the aesthetic of it actually being an uncomfortable horror movie, is the remake of the 2013 remake of Evil Dead. And I know there's a lot of people who have like issues with that movie. I personally don't. I like that movie. But you get introduced to a bunch of like young adults, and they're not like super clean and well kept. Well, they are, but like based on how it's filmed, the filter, the cabin that they go to,
right?
It's all dark, gritty. The cabin that they get to,
except for the Alvarez movie,
yeah,
Alien Romulus director,
right? But Sam Raimi still produced it.
No, I know.
Okay, well, anyways, but like you enter the cabin, and you already can tell like, okay, like just based on the aesthetics of this place, we already know this is going to be a super gritty movie.
Yeah.
And like the people are kind of trash, and the situation's like really sketchy.
Yeah.
And if you watch the director's cut, then you get like the beginning like the prologue of the movie, which takes place like 50 or 60 years prior. And that's already fucked up as it is. But
and going off of that, even Evil Dead Rise
extremely uncomfortable from the beginning.
But right, and there's even the same setting in the intro to the movie, where it's a group of kids at a cabin. You know, it's a different cabin, different scenario, different characters, but even then that cabin is like dark in the inside. It's weathered down, it's aged, the way it's shot, you know, it all just makes it look like a horror movie. And that's just part of like make just one step closer to it being good or tasteful or creative, artistic, whatever, you know, what have you.
I feel like the best way to like film a horror movie is going one of two routes. Rather, one, like you said before, making the beginning of the movie so vibrant and colorful, you as the audience already know like, okay, something's about to like flip. Like it's so exaggerated to where you know that something's going to go downhill.
But I was saying not to do that. I was saying that's what like Until Dawn is doing.
No, but like they kind of did it. What I'm talking about is kind of like in Zack Snyder's why can't I think? Dawn of the Dead. Like
but that movie, like even the filter and the way that it's shot before things go south, it's still kind of like a grungy looking movie.
Well, I don't know. Something about like the very beginning, like the first like 2 minutes of the movie being like super vibrant and colorful. So you know like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like, quote unquote. And then it flips and then it's all gritty and grainy and stuff. That I think is well done because it's more of just a visual switch in tone. Or like right off the bat, kind of like Evil Dead.
But consistently though, it's still shot artistically and it has a cohesive look.
Right.
This movie doesn't.
It's just bland.
It's just generic looking with all of the horror elements thrown into it.
Yeah.
It would be not to say that it looks this bad, but like for a very vague explanation, I'm thinking of like how all Hallmark movies look the same, all the same characters, all the same archetypes and stuff. They just throw a different theme on it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying this movie is. It's like it's shot generically. There's nothing creative about the way that it's filmed, but it's just got like a horror theme to it.
There's a show that I want to talk about where I have the same issue with that. So,
Which is
the new Daredevil show. Because, so I saw a post. I probably should have looked at who made the post. But someone took like 3 different screenshots from the original show.
Mm-hmm.
Each different shot had like a specific color to that scene. Like in the scenes where it was all red, or like it was all one color, or like it had a specific theme to like the filter and everything.
Kind of had like an indie movie thing going
right,
on.
Like to where every single scene like had a very specific, or like the scene in the very first episode when Matt Murdock is introduced to Karen and the entire apartment is like it's emanated with like pink.
Right.
In the new show, like that person took 3 different screenshots of the trailer from the new show. It's all bland.
Yeah.
No creative liberties as far as like color tones or anything like that, which shows that like everything is kind of just being mass produced now. There's no like heart or creativity.
It's like Disney's just trying their best to make it look like the original show.
And they're doing a decent job because from what I can tell, I think maybe if I'm right, I might actually enjoy the show.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still something missing that like visually, like as I'm mentioning, you can already tell something about like that original pizzazz that the pizzazz
Mm-hmm.
that the original show had. This one will not have.
Right.
Which just sucks. That could also go for the other Netflix shows like Luke Cage and Iron Fist, because they all had those themes too.
Right.
But what do I know?
Yeah. I was just curious about your thoughts about Until Dawn, because especially when Until Dawn originally came out, you were more of a fan of the game than I was.
Purely just for the hype that it was getting. And I liked...
Yeah, I mean...
I like the horror parts of it, because I'm currently rewatching the game, but it's being done by John Solo, the YouTuber, for those of you who may or may not know. But he did like a live stream of Until Dawn because he does like a lot of like folklore stuff, and he wanted to play a game that was kind of like based around
because it has the Wendigo and
and so I'm rewatching it, and it's before all the horror stuff happens, it's a bland game.
Yeah, I mean,
and I remember being really young and watching the game, because I never played it. I only watched other YouTubers play it.
Mm-hmm.
That was also an age when I never played horror games, but I remember being terrified of the Wendigo, and like I knew nothing about it, and it was like super scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen clips of it recently, and it is still freaky, but like that game isn't as terrifying.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like a combination of all the right things for its time.
Right.
It was hot take, Until Dawn, little overrated.
A little bit.
Especially looking back on it, like you're talking about, or after playing The Quarry, which
I still haven't played it.
Doesn't like nearly meet what Until Dawn was.
Right.
But it's just, yeah, I think Until Dawn, it's just something of the past. And I think it's just something that should stay in the past.
There again, I have a very particular taste in horror.
Mm-hmm.
which Until Dawn doesn't meet. Some of it does. Very small fraction of it does.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm just not really phased by it. I think the idea is cool, and
Right.
I think Until Dawn is one of the games. I think Until Dawn is one of the games that should have been remade, not remastered.
Well, this new one that came out I think it is technically a remake because I think they put it through like a new engine and they like rebuilt a lot of it and whatnot.
Well,
but it just
I'm rewatching that one, and it just doesn't really look like
right. I know it
kind of just looks like
it's really just a lighting and like texture difference. I forgot how they explain it, but I still think that technically it is a remake.
Okay, well, when I think of remake, I don't think of
right.
that.
You think of like the difference between the original Dead Space and the new Dead Space.
Yeah, like I think they should have started from scratch, and like
right,
maybe kept the same plot, but just made a couple adjustments.
Yeah, reimagine it, bring something new.
Maybe had a different studio do it.
Yeah, that studio. I mean, I am curious to see what that studio does with Little Nightmares. But I kind of want to see them just do something new.
You know what? And maybe this is just me, but I think if Until Dawn was remade, I don't think it should be like a photorealistic type game. I think it could have been a really cool stylized horror game.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they could still just make a new game.
Right. Like I could be wrong. Like maybe it wouldn't be as scary. But I've noticed that there are kind of like movies, because we've noticed like, especially since like Into the Spider-Verse came out.
Or like Arcane.
Right. Like a lot of stylized and like unphotorealistic stuff has been way more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also noticed that with some games too. And maybe Until Dawn could have used that.
I do kind of want to see like a AAA, style game that's not, hyper realistic or whatever, and like lifelike, and maybe do something stylistic and whatnot, because that very much exists in like the indie genre of video games.
Right.
But yeah, like a AAA game, AAA studio make something
like we kind of had it with like Telltale games, but
those games aren't what they used to be anymore, though.
Well, right, but what I want is kind of like Until Dawn, because with Until Dawn you could get tons of different endings.
Right.
But I want a game that's kind of like as stylized as a Telltale game, but you can get just as many endings as Until Dawn.
Right. All right. Pee break, and we're waiting for ambulances to go by. Anyways, so Until Dawn, whatever.
Yeah.
Trailer came out today. What also happened today, not that it's super important or that it changes our lives at all. I was kind of interested in it. Kind of. Big emphasis on kind of. The trailer for the Switch 2 today.
Didn't see it.
It's essentially the Switch. It's a little bigger. Actually, it's a lot bigger. I would say, I don't have the specs on me, but let's say this is the original Switch. This is the new Switch.
Mm-hmm.
And the handles fit that size too. So they're longer handles.
Oh, okay.
I think they go on magnetically. It showed like a bunch of new ports that it has. More specs will come out soon when it can play previous games, and it's going to have new games that you can only play on the new Switch, kind of like any next gen console.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, until any specific news comes out about like how different it is, it's just a Switch. I mean, I was thinking about getting an OLED Switch when that came out, because I really like Mario Party. I really like those kind of games where it's like, 4 people can play. But that's the only reason I ended up not wanting the Switch, and I even got rid of the Switch Lite that I had because I understand the convenience, and sometimes I need or I would like in a given moment a handheld, but to invest money into one for like never needing or using a handheld, it just didn't make sense.
Right.
But whenever we're at someone else's place that has a Switch and we play Mario Party, that's always fun.
Yeah.
I like games like that.
I personally, the only reason why I wanted to invest in a Switch is so that, because like it's like more of a group thing, or at least I think it's more fun as a group thing. I could get it for me and my little developed family.
Yeah.
And have it for like family game nights, for like when Emmett is a little more aware and Henry is older. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that's it. I don't think I would ever play Switch to like spend time by myself.
Yeah.
Because I get plenty of, well, when I have the time, I can put all that time into games that I'm more interested in on both PlayStation and Xbox.
Yeah.
And I'm not as interested as some of their standalone games like Zelda, like Breath of the Wild, and I can't think of anything else.
Yeah. I mean, if I do get one, I probably won't. But if I do, one, it'll probably be after it's been out for a little bit.
Right.
Maybe if we end up knowing someone who gets one, try it out. But unless it's purely to play games like Mario Party, Mario Kart,
yeah,
like group party type games, I'll get one. But I have an Xbox Series X. I have the PlayStation 5. I'm about to have a PC shortly.
Right.
But I always find myself coming back to the Xbox.
That's how I am with the PlayStation. Like if I'm ever thinking about what I want to play, I resort straight to the PlayStation.
Yeah, and like I have the PlayStation for exclusives. I mean, that's pretty much what I have it. I do have the Phantom Pain on the PlayStation, so if I ever want to play that, I'd go onto the PlayStation. But Xbox, and I don't care, you can come at me if you want to. Xbox is you get more for your money. Game Pass is a better deal and it's more affordable. It gives you more. The amount of like, it also discounts more, like more stuff you can play. Like the whole play anywhere is real.
Right.
Like you can, whether it's your computer, your phone, your tablet, anything with a screen on it,
right,
you can play your games anywhere. Whether it's Game Pass or something you just have downloaded, you can. It's just super convenient. Hell, like you don't even have to like. I thought this would bother me before, but now like it's like it's clicking. The whole you don't even need an Xbox to play Xbox is a real thing. Like if you have a new Samsung TV, it comes with the Xbox app.
Right.
And so as long as you have a subscription, you can play Xbox.
That's pretty cool.
There's a new Fire Stick, same thing, that comes with the Xbox, and you can buy a bundle that comes with the controller. So you could just plug in your Fire Stick into a TV and play Xbox.
I will say that is pretty cool, and I do agree with you. Sad to say, I do agree with you when it comes to like you get more for the amount of money that you're spending.
Yeah.
The only reason why I like PlayStation more, aside from nostalgic reasons, I like the exclusives more. There's a lot about there's a lot of small things about the PlayStation that I like more, but I will agree that like you do get more out of the Xbox. But personally, I only have an Xbox to play games live, like if I'm doing multiplayer games, or if there's just a game that I can't play on the PlayStation, like Halo.
Yeah.
So, or I guess from here on out, Doom. But yeah, I just prefer PlayStation, like overall.
Which that obviously that makes sense. I've grown out of the whole game wars thing.
Well, yeah.
Like the whole Xbox versus PlayStation. I couldn't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
I used to give people who play PlayStation shit, and they used to give me shit for playing Xbox. I don't care.
It's like a dumb.
At this point, I'm at the age where like I'm holding on to dear life to try to play video games. That it's like, if you have the ability to play games, do it.
Right.
Go play some video games. I envy you.
Yeah. I mean, it's just great to be able to play video games in general, especially like when you reach adulthood and like it feels like you don't have time to play video games anymore. But
sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
You're fine.
On the note of getting more for your money,
yeah,
with the Xbox, and as someone who used to be and still is an Xbox person, if someone were to be like, "Hey, I want to start playing video games, where should I go?"
For sure.
I'll be devil's advocate and I'll tell them like the benefits of each, because I've gotten a taste for all of it.
Right.
But I will tell them to go to Xbox.
No,
it's like, I'm gonna sit there. I'm gonna I'm gonna health insurance the shit out of them and sit there with like a pamphlet and be like, "This is what you're getting with the Xbox," and blah 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 blah. Yes, they're talking about bringing it to PlayStation, but you still get Halo, you get Gears of War, you get these sick ass games. And if you really want to play some PlayStation games that bad, then you can get a PC, which a lot of PlayStation games go to, and you can have your Xbox subscription on your PC and play everything.
I would say no, I agree, because like when people ask me about like gaming for the first time and like where they should go, it's more of just a question of like, okay, well, are you someone who likes multiplayer games, or do you like campaign story driven games? Because even though Xbox has both and PlayStation has both, I think if you're trying to go for multiplayer, Xbox has not only a bigger variety, but it's just like, it's a better experience. PlayStation, all their exclusives are amazing story-driven games. Yeah. So like, but it again, it's just like, where are you starting from? Like, if you prefer story-driven games, I'm gonna recommend the PlayStation, because it has both features, but the story exclusives are phenomenal. Right. And then Xbox, it's like, if you just want more of a variety, just in general, and have both story games and multiplayer games, then yeah, go for Xbox. Definitely, especially with Game Pass.
It's kind of like a conversation on what it is you're looking for. Right. Because with Xbox, I'd say Xbox is a great like general gaming experience. Right. It's got a blend of everything. Maybe it does. I'd say it exceeds. Xbox used to exceed in other stuff. Where they exceed now is accessibility. And that's what they're striving for. Right. Is you can play and access Xbox wherever. And that's great. I love it. And if you're someone if you have the money to put into like the top notch, like Series X, then you get, that's also the caveat too, is that if you're playing without the Xbox, your game is only running on what you have. Right. So like quality will be based on your TV, your internet connection, so on and so forth. And same thing if like you're playing Xbox stuff on PC. But like if you have the money to actually get an Xbox, you can play high quality games on the Series S, but you don't have to worry about the size or whatever, and everything's digital. That's cool. A lot of people play digital anyway. If you have the little bit more money to put in the Series X, then you get the 4K resolution, you get the big storage right off the bat, all that stuff. You get the ray tracing.
Right.
But if you're like you said, if you want the super cinematic campaign story, like right off the bat, then yeah, go to PlayStation because they've always done that.
Right.
And we're kind of leaning into an era where that might not so much be the case anymore. Xbox has talked about bringing stuff to PlayStation, and there's already some independent studios from PlayStation or that are kind of under the umbrella of PlayStation that are bringing their stuff to Xbox, like Death Stranding just got on Xbox this past November.
Right.
And when it comes to PC, here's the other thing. PC, I'm just talking bluntly here. There is a huge bonus to playing PC. And I would not call it ideal. Because one, in order to get the experience that PC gamers talk so much shit about, or like they keep themselves on some particular pedestal, you have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars.
In order for you to play a game like Last of Us on PlayStation, you have to spend double, if not triple, the amount of money on that you spend on a PlayStation or an Xbox just for a PC that won't explode.
Right. And that's another thing. You have to make sure that like your parts are compatible with each other. You have to make sure they fit. You have to make sure that like
you're getting it from a reliable company,
that the power is accessible.
Right.
So many different things. You have to make sure that your monitor can like handle the speeds. Like that's a whole new thing now that you have to pay attention to. I mean, it's not new, but that's like a whole thing that a lot of people who are just getting into PCs don't think about. They buy like a fancy monitor and they don't think to check like the refresh rate and stuff like that to make sure that, because they're like, I just spent $3,000 on this PC. Why is it lagging? It's like just make sure
if you get $3,000 on a PC, you might as well spend an extra like $500 or something on a monitor that can like withstand the games that you're playing.
But I'm just saying that it's just like and that's before, like that's thousands of dollars before you've even spent any money on games.
Right.
So what I would say, if you really want to, PCs are better for content creation. Like if you're someone who's streaming video games, if you're someone who's like playing a game, or it's like multitasking stuff, like you're playing a game on one thing and you're streaming somewhere else, or if you're streaming to multiple platforms, like some people will stream to Twitch and YouTube simultaneously. If you're a competitive gamer, that's when you really want a PC. Because like when you're playing like Halo, for instance, on an Xbox, like, yeah, Halo's designed for the Xbox, but the thing is like your thumbs, like especially, doesn't matter how sensitive your camera speed is, your thumbs can only do so much.
Your thumbs can't do what your wrist can do.
Right. So when you're playing competitively, and then also you got to think about when you're playing on Xbox or playing on PlayStation, there's a fraction of a second between the input of your controller and it going to your TV and then like the results showing.
Right.
That's another thing about the refresh rate, because when you're playing on PC, if you've got like your high quality monitor that's got a nice refresh rate and everything's working the way it's supposed to, and you've got your settings properly set, you like when you move your mouse, you and your character on the screen are like 1,000% in sync.
Yeah.
That's why like you see people who play like first person shooters competitively, like they can just move and they can act and do things super quick.
Right.
it doesn't help the fact that they're sitting like 3 inches away from the monitor, but it's like that's what you would want your PC for. Anyways, that was a random tangent, and
I don't even think we're remotely close to on topic.
I mean, again, this episode I didn't really want there to be a specific topic, but
True.
I do have a couple things on here. So we were talking about the Switch,
Which, by the way, doesn't have any of the things that we said were good about either Xbox or PlayStation. If you ask me, it doesn't have any exclusives. I mean, I know a lot.
Well, it has all Nintendo games.
Well, yeah, it has all Nintendo games, but like, who's gonna spend 8 hours playing Mario Kart by themselves?
Don't say that. There's probably
That's dumb. I'm sorry, like that's not
that's
interesting.
another thing is like that you and I don't think about. I was actually listening to a podcast at work. There's these. I just started listening to this podcast. It's the State of the Arc podcast.
Mhm.
These two guys talk about a lot of, they talk about video games, but I've noticed they talk about a lot of Japanese studio made games.
Mm.
It doesn't matter what tier, whether it's like, indie or AAA development.
Right.
That's what they tend to talk about. And I was just thinking, like, they'll talk about particular games or topics and stuff, and they'll leave out so much stuff. And I'm just realizing, I was like, well, these guys play Japanese, Nintendo games. They're not playing, because he even meant they even brought up their top 10 games of 2024 or whatever, and one of them had mentioned God of War Ragnarok came with his PlayStation 5, and he only played it for 10 minutes, and he went over to Astrobot. But I'm just saying, like, we're not a part of a very large market in the gaming world that is Nintendo and Japanese studios and other, another part of the game medium, which we noticed at the Game Awards. There were tons of games that we had never heard of, we didn't care about, and we were just like, get to the big stuff, get to the stuff we've been waiting for.
Right.
But I tend to not think about that. It's purely just we're not a part of that market.
I guess I just like whenever I think about like, oh, what's better between this console or this console, the Switch doesn't have anything that I find enjoyable aside from the fact that it has a couple games you could play with your family, and sure, it has Breath of the Wild, but
which is one of the countless games that people spend tons of hours on.
But to me, it's literally just a not as high quality and Nintendo version of Horizon Zero Dawn.
I think those games are a little bit more intuitive, but that's just me.
No, I know, but I don't know. But enough with the Switch. I'm done talking about the Switch.
But another game that I did want to talk about is, we briefly talked about it just amongst ourselves, but the director of The Witcher 3 started a new studio.
Sounds familiar.
And again, I don't have the information pulled up on me at this moment, but they're creating that new vampire game, the Blood of the Dawn Walker, I think is what it's called.
Something like that.
Yeah, and I did find some stuff about it. I was actually gonna watch a video that the creators made that dives more into it, but I did find some stuff out. So it's 14th century, like historical fiction horror.
But it's got this crazy day and night mechanic where the character has different gameplay during the day compared to nighttime.
Oh,
So like he'll be stronger at nighttime, or he'll be more vampire-esque at nighttime, whilst during the day maybe, I didn't get all the specifics, but it's like just pulling this out of my ass, but just for the sake of, like, he might be a little weaker during the day, or he might not have access to particular powers during the day.
interesting.
He is a human vampire hybrid, so he's not like,
So he's Blade.
sort of. He's not complete. He's not like completely like vulnerable during the daytime, but the gameplay does change, and there's a 30-day system where, or something like that. It's like 30 days or whatever, and you only have that amount of time to complete side quests and the main story. So it's impossible to 100% the game. So you have to decide how you want to play the game and what stuff you want to accomplish before it's the end of the game.
So you're saying that if you want to 100% the game, you have no choice but to.
You can't 100% the game.
But if there's a 30-day system, then you could within the 30 days.
No.
Huh?
Because essentially it gives you more than you can accomplish in that time frame.
Oh.
So,
What about the story though?
well, so you have to complete the main story.
Right.
But like all of the side stuff, whether it's small or like major side quests and stuff, you have to just choose whether or not you're going to do those things. But it means
That's
that
weird.
every time you play, it's completely different, because some of those things and some of the choices you make are different, whether it's daytime or nighttime.
Could you imagine starting a side quest that you get so invested into, and then you're like, oh man, like the next couple days are just gonna be so busy, and then those days pass, and then you start up the game again, and that one side quest you were so invested in is like no longer a thing?
Well, I don't think no, it's not days in real time. It's days in the game.
Which could be worse.
Sure. What I'm assuming, and again, I'm purely just stating the very few details that I do know. I do plan to do more research on it. What I'm assuming is that it's similar to Gotham Knights, where like you can essentially knock out a certain amount of stuff, and then you initiate the next day. Or whatever. But like at some point you have to progress the main story, which probably extinguishes some side stuff. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why like you really have to be tedious and particular about what stuff you choose to do, which I think is cool though, because it has like a replayability factor. So whether you can play the game again and do something like do a different side quest, or you can replay those side quests at a different point of the day and see how different it is, or you like make different decisions.
Yeah.
All of those things factor into a completely new game experience.
It's a game that's kind of maybe not completely solved, just depending on how the game turns out when it's released, but it's like that close to solving a game, or the problem of never getting tired of a game, because it's always different.
But I would like to see this. Essentially what I'm saying is this game's going on my radar.
Oh yeah, for sure.
When new gameplay stuff comes out, I definitely want to see if it's something I'm more into. But I'm not these days. I'm not usually into open world stuff.
Me neither.
But I think this might be an opportunity to change that formula finally, where an open world might be more interesting.
Yeah.
Because the fact that you still kind of have to stay close to the main story,
still might give it a more linear feel,
Yeah.
which I'm excited for. I'm excited for these kind of games that try to switch it up. And
I mean, for me, it's as simple as it being a vampire game because I'm huge into vampires. But unfortunately, there's never been a vampire game that's really grabbed my attention.
right,
Because there was the vampire game that was made by a smaller studio.
yeah,
And it just wasn't like a great game. The premise was cool and there was a lot of cool factors, but it just had to be made differently. And then there's a different first person vampire game, which I'm not the biggest fan of.
it's a sequel to the. I'm just not familiar with the original game. It's like the Masquerade or
Yeah, it's just like there's something about it towards like I don't know. Something I watched gameplay and I looked at some reviews and it just doesn't really seem like my kind of game. But this new one looks pretty cool. And again, I know it was just announced, so it could change.
Yeah.
But it kind of looks like it has some of the things that I liked about the vampire game, but it has other things that that game didn't have, which I'm looking forward to.
and it leans more towards the AAA, quality.
Right. But yeah, I want like a really nice quality vampire game that I can really like sink my teeth into.
Yeah.
But that was pretty good.
Yeah, so I was just pretty excited for that. I did have I have stuff.
Son of a biscuit.
You got that text for pizza?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. You know what comes out tomorrow? Technically tonight, but it comes out tomorrow. I know you're not excited for it. And I wouldn't say I'm excited for it. I'm curious. The Wolfman. Or Wolfman.
Oh my god.
Yeah. This movie is on a lot of people's radar. I wouldn't say it's on mine.
No.
But I'm curious.
I'm curious enough to watch it, but not to like buy tickets. Like if it comes out on a streaming service, I'll watch it then. But one, it won't be the first thing that I'm like, oh, it's out, I'm gonna watch it. No, I'm probably gonna watch like a million other things that I have on my list for different channels and then watch it.
Yeah. I mean, this would be a movie that like, I don't know, if I just had some chump change or if someone else paid for the ticket, I would prefer to see it in theaters.
But I don't care.
Yeah. But it comes out tonight. And I thought it was funny. There was this clip of I don't know her name, but the actress, the leading actress of the movie, who has been confirmed to play Silver Surfer in the upcoming Fantastic Four movie. She was asked, an interviewer asked her, she's like, is there anything you can tell us about? Because you know how typically it's like a Marvel trope at this point where like someone will ask an actor about a Marvel movie and they'll be like, oh no, it's like super tight, can't say anything, blah blah blah. All this girl said was, I'm shiny.
Oh my god!
Like she,
no shit.
It was almost like she had no idea. I'm just no ill word to the actress herself. Like I don't have anything against her or whatever.
I do.
I just thought it was funny. There's like, oh, can you tell us anything about your role as the Silver Surfer in the Fantastic Four? And she was like, I'm shiny. And then she just went on. She did the whole thing where she kind of like moved around it, where she was like, oh, like I'm just super excited for the movie and the cast, and it's like a super fun experience. Blah 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 blah. But I don't know. I just thought That was funny.
Well, first off, let me just thank you for bringing up two things I'm upset about. First, the Wolfman, and then Silver Surfer. But going back to the Wolfman real quick, first off, let me just say that the 2010 The Wolfman movie film came out. That set a standard for what the Wolfman should be. Saying, and I understand that this new one, it's like its own take on the Wolfman story. First off, I've seen what he looks like as the Wolfman. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And second of all, I don't know, like, I like things like vampires and werewolves and stuff, and I have a very specific idea of what, like, how the movie is supposed to be done and what should be done. Like, I don't think, honestly, I see this movie the same way you were talking about Until Dawn. I think it's just like a really, like, poorly made
This one,
movie.
there's still, I think this one is definitely more creative though than Until Dawn.
I personally think there's I forgot the title of it, and we've talked about this on the side, and you disagree with me, but that's fine. There's another Wolfman like movie. It has a somewhat similar premise to this new Wolfman movie, but it's on Hulu. But just looking at the trailer, like just basing both movies off of trailer strictly, the one that's on Hulu, I think it looks better than the new in theaters Wolfman movie that's coming out. It's the main character is played by the guy who played Jon Snow, and the whole premise is that he's a werewolf, but the movie takes place from the point of view of his daughter. They live out in the middle of nowhere, and they're like a really happy family, and but it's clear that the dad has like a curse, and like, you know, when night comes, he turns into a werewolf and he gets locked up.
The Beast Within.
The Beast Within. But watch the trailer for that movie, and then watch the trailer for the new Wolfman movie, and tell me that the Beast Within, like, that looks more interesting.
They're very sorry. They're very similar. Like, it's almost like the Beast Within is like the same family, but like a year later. It's like,
Kinda.
they're like, they figured it out. They know how to like contain
but if the
him.
daughter didn't know about the situation.
Yeah, because it's like a dad, a wife, and a daughter, and then the dad's the werewolf.
Right.
I get it, but it's, I don't know. I mean, it's all subjective, but
I will watch both movies, and I'll restate then if like my statement holds true or if my opinions change.
the one thing I think Wolfman, at least just purely based on looking at the trailers for both of them, Wolfman looks like it's gonna have like that edge that a werewolf movie should have, that the other movie doesn't look like it has. And again, I could be wrong. I'm basing this off of trailers.
Right.
The other movie, I could be way off, and that movie's like a lot darker than I thought it was. But purely just based on what I know, the people who are involved in this one, Wolfman looks like that, that bigger budget. It's not like a big budget movie,
right,
but it's got like the budget it needs. It's got like that artistic flair that it needs, the narrative that doesn't hold back at all. And I also heard from test screenings that it's got the gnarliest transformation scene ever.
That could be true, but my opinion, again, strictly just based on trailer, is I think that the only reason why people think the Wolfman is going to be better than the movie A Beast Within is strictly the fact that it's like coming out in theaters. Because The Beasts Within, I don't think did. I think it just went straight to a streaming service.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because it has some kind of hype behind it, like it gets trailers and it's coming out in theaters, is why people might think, oh, this movie's already better.
Well, yeah, but it's a little bit of that, but it's also like the guy who directed it is the same guy who did The Invisible Man, which was a big hit.
It was, but like, what if this is the case where it's purely just based on writing? Like, what if one might be like a better horror movie, but what if like A Beast Within, the writing is just so much more clever and better to where it's already a better werewolf movie? That's how I see it. Like,
I don't know.
I think it might be like the small things about that movie that might make it a little bit better than the Wolfman. And again, I don't like the way the Wolfman looks in the new movie. Sorry, I just don't.
It might just be one of those things, though, that he looks better in action.
Maybe.
Because when we did see him, it was like a leaked, like 3D model of him.
Yeah.
Or it was like an action figure or something like that.
But the idea that that's where you decided to go with a look in the first place, I still think a more traditional look of the Wolfman would have still been more entertaining.
In a way, though, he kind of does look like that.
No, he doesn't.
But
take that look and then buzz him bald.
He's not bald.
He is bald.
I thought he had really long hair.
No, he bald.
I don't think that's true.
He is, because I saw a picture of what he looks like on set, like with the whole outfit on, and he bald.
Well, maybe
he only has like a few strands of like gray hair, like Stewie style. And
well, maybe that's not him. What if that's the other werewolf?
Maybe, but it's still ugly as fuck.
That's true, but
and then you take the Wolfman from 2010,
but the premise is the same. Like it's kind of like the difference between the original Nosferatu, Count Orlok, and the new one. You know, it's like you're doing the same thing, but you're approaching it differently. It's like you're describing a gangly, ugly, skinny, bald, white skin vampire.
Yeah.
But approached differently. One is like really on the nose. One is the interpretation of that, but like still carries that prompt. While it's like this one, the Wolfman, whether it's the original Universal one or the Benicio del Toro movie, you know, it's a man with wolf-like features. So he's taller, he's more muscular, he's got a lot of hair, he's got big, fangs, he's got the hinged legs, whatever. Same thing with this movie. It's a bigger guy, he's taller, he's stronger.
That's another thing. Is the 2010 Wolfman movie has what you were talking about earlier. Like right off the bat, the movie's gritty. It's dark.
Hey, this one
it's uncomfortable.
Gritty.
I don't get that same vibe. Honestly, every single time I see the trailer, from the very first time I saw it till now, I haven't taken the movie seriously. I think there are some things that are interesting, like they show in the trailer during his transformation, he starts to lose comprehension of language and certain things, like he starts to lose his humanity. I think that's kind of interesting, but the one thing I couldn't take seriously was like when it shows what it looks like from his perspective and everything was like really colorful looking. Yeah.
That was weird. I was like, why?
But dude,
like dogs are colorblind.
Talk about gnarly transformations. The 2010 Wolfman, when he's in the hospital or in the asylum, was it an asylum? Well, when they're doing the presentation and he's in the chair and he's like, I'm going to kill you all. And then the moon rises and his hand starts to like break and everything. That was sick.
You know, I know we're going to end up having this conversation in a future episode about movies we have a different opinion about. But I hope you're aware, that's one of the movies that a lot of people don't like.
Guess what? I don't fucking care because I like that movie. I think it's sick. And I think it's a great blend between prosthetics and CGI. Because there were a lot of scenes that were prosthetic, but then they threw in like hints of CGI that I thought were really cool. I don't give a fuck. I think that movie looks better than the new one. But I could be wrong because I'm going to watch both the Beast Within and the new Wolfman movie.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to give my take after. Maybe I'll make a video on it. Like strictly just talking about those two movies. But yeah, I don't know. Oh, and then the new Silver Surfer. Stupid. I have like whole my gripes on it, and it's just one of those things to where like Marvel had the ability to like do some. I'm not saying that it's a problem that she's a female Silver Surfer. The only issue I have is that Marvel has made so many decisions that have like led fans away from Marvel. Like they've pushed us away so far. The least they could do is start making like specific decisions to draw people back in, and that's not one of them.
I don't know. I would say that doesn't bother me a whole lot because there's just the new version of the Fantastic Four, the way that they're doing it is just unpredictable, you know, as it is.
Yeah.
It takes place in a new dimension. It's like a different reality.
Right.
Things are this is more than likely it's very probable that this is the dimension that Doctor Doom comes from. Yeah. And that's why it's Tony Stark. But it's whatever.
I completely forgot about that.
But like, you know, this dimension, one of the things are bound to be different. Silver Surfer being one of them. Based on how they're doing Galactus, there's even a chance that regardless of who's playing Silver Surfer, it still could be a really accurate Silver Surfer, because based on like concept arts that have leaked and who they've casted as like Galactus, like it could end up just being like the Silver Surfer we've wanted. It's just shaped a little different, you know? Or maybe it's like it's the same exact Silver Surfer, and I think you're the one who said this, but instead of, I don't know his name, I don't know Silver Surfer's name, but instead of it being him, it's his wife.
Okay,
and she became Silver Surfer.
But I think that's, me personally, I'll only be okay with that. Which one I would be more okay with it if they just make it to where NORAD like does exist, just not as the Silver Surfer. Like this is his wife. Fine, that's great, whatever. But I would be more happy if they made it to where in the Fantastic Four continuity, it was NORAD's wife. And then in the main Marvel continuity, it was NORAD. So like if for any reason, if the Fantastic Four gets brought into the main MCU dimension, what is it, like 100009 or something like that?
Yeah.
And then they get there and they're approached by the Silver Surfer, who in this dimension is NORAD. And they're like, oh, interesting. We come from in a world where your wife sacrificed herself instead of you. Something like that I'd be completely okay with, because then we get like different takes and we can like dip our toes into different ideas of the Silver Surfer. Great.
What if, you're gonna hate me for saying this, what if in the main, quote unquote, main dimension of the MCU, what if the Silver Surfer is an Eternal? Essentially saying he's a robot.
Well, first off, they would kind of make sense because the Eternals are made from the Celestials.
But what I'm saying is that,
like, it's not NORAD.
Like, he might have that name because he has to have a name. But, like, in this dimension, he's just another one of the robots that the Sentinels made. Or not Sentinels,
I would still have an issue. I would still have an issue with it, only because... Okay, well, here's the thing is, in ways I would be okay with it because...
But that's just as different as Silver Surfer being a woman.
It is. I would still have a problem with it. Actually, no, I would. I would actually really have a problem with it because one, it takes away from the idea that like the Silver Surfer, he could have his powers for any reason. While in comic books, it comes from the board, just like Mjolnir. Like you get your powers. Like Thor, yes, he is a demigod, but you also can get powers from Mjolnir. Silver Surfer gets all of his powers from the board. If you're an Eternal, there's literally no point of the board aside from aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing special about it because you're all one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it completely like takes away from tragedy. Because like part of Silver Surfer is the fact that he like in order for his planet and his wife to live, he sacrificed his own life to become the Silver Surfer for however long Galactus wants him to be.
Right.
And he can never go home. That's fucking tragic.
Yeah.
You take that away if he's an Eternal. Yeah, I would have a fucking problem with it.
Mm-hmm. Because he's not interesting anymore.
Not remotely. It would still even piss me off if they were like, oh yeah, this is Silver Surfer in every single way. He has this tragic backstory just to find out that those are fake memories. Because it's like, okay, then I don't give a fuck about the character anymore because he's just a robot.
They would probably play it as like, oh, woe is me, like my life is a lie. But it's like,
I would be completely okay with it if they convinced him he was an Eternal. Just for him to find out that he actually was a person and he had a life and he got all those memories back. And then he's like, you did what to me? That would be...
Because then it would make it...
double whammy.
Because then it would make it interesting for him to have like a drive to go back and find out what it is that he left. But Galactus like tries to prevent him from doing so.
Or he does that just to find out that Galactus screwed him over anyways and still ate his planet. But because he was so far away from home and was convinced he could never go back, there was no point in like trying, and Galactus thought like, oh, well, he's not going to go back. I'm going to eat this planet anyways.
Damn.
And then he goes back to like try to discover his past just to find out that there's nothing fucking left.
Yeah.
Including the woman he wanted to save by making the deal that literally got him nowhere. And that makes Galactus look even worse. We should write Marvel. No, actually, Aaron and I have had that conversation about multiple things. Like, we would, like, something would come out and we're like, oh, this is cool, but wouldn't it be better if they did it this way?
I mean, I'm sure that happens.
We can make an entire video off of it. We did it with Absolute Batman.
I mean, hell, we were just talking about the, well, no, that's a whole video I want to do. Is the Absolute Batman.
That's what I'm saying is like we did it with Absolute Batman. We just did it with Silver Surfer. It took us like 3 minutes.
We just had a conversation the other day about how they should have done Jan in The Office.
How they should have done Jan in The Office. There's like 5 other things, but like we could literally make an entire fucking episode based on all the things we think were done wrong.
I do want to make that, maybe do a series on that.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming up with all the ideas right here. Okay, because I also had an idea about, you know how on my channel I do like the pitches?
Yeah.
Like I pitched a Spawn movie. I pitched like games that should be remade. I have a list of like games that just should be made, not remade, like they're...
Like they don't exist?
Yeah, they don't exist, but they're just games that specific developers should make.
Right.
I think it'd be cool to sit down and discuss those.
That'd be sick.
Because I'm like just a little teaser. I've shot this idea towards you before, a long time ago. There's a game idea I have that Naughty Dog should make. Naughty Dog, I think I've advocated a long time. I'm glad they're doing a new game because I've advocated that they need to do something new.
Right.
They've been making the same 2 fucking things for the longest time. And remaking one of them over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That like, I'm glad they're doing something new. But if for whatever reason they had like a smaller part of the studio, or if they expanded, there's a game idea, like they can hop onto a particular wagon that Sony's doing, like PlayStation, and make this fucking game. And I think that'd be a cool discussion, is like have a list of like, oh, these developers should make this game. Or like these maybe like hypotheticals in movies or shows that do exist or whatever. Yeah, because, or comic books, because that, as much of a spoiler alert for our absolute Batman conversation, as much as I love Batman's like my god. I do not like the absolute Batman.
I think there are things about him that I like.
It's like an execution thing, though.
Yeah,
it's like
first off, I'm sorry. I don't like the artist that they chose for the absolute Batman. I'm sure he's done other good stuff.
Well, I don't want to get too into it, though.
No, right. No, but yeah, I just think there's some things they did right. There's some things they did wrong. I can kind of say the same thing about the I like the absolute Superman more. I think there's things that I'm like, I don't think there's anything that I don't like about it. I think there's things I'm iffy about.
The Wonder Woman one's the best.
No, the Wonder Woman thing I have no complaints about at all. It's sick.
Because, and again, we'll get into this when we do talk about these things.
Yeah.
But the whole premise is, it's like, what if these characters were made now? Or what if they became the superheroes?
Yes, but there is a theme behind the absolute universe that you're missing. So when Darkseid made this universe, he took certain things away from each person.
Well, right. No, I'm not saying, but those are like unique to each character.
Oh, but like the ultimate universe.
The whole premise of like the ultimate universe in Marvel and the absolute universe in DC is like, what if these characters were now? Like, if they were made now, if they became the characters that they're supposed to be now, how different would it be?
Right.
So they're essentially just doing the ultimate universe from Marvel.
Original ultimate universe. New ultimate universe, there's a different thing.
Yeah, but so, which is another reason, again, I don't want to get too into it, but that's, when we get into it, that's why I like the Wonder Woman one. She's like, they hit it on the head.
It's so good.
Right. But those are conversations for later episodes.
Oh my god, I'm excited for that episode.
So what did we get to talk about today? We talked about Until Dawn.
Yeah.
I'm not very excited for it.
No. Well, I'm interested, but I wouldn't say I'm excited.
Let me ask you this. Are you going to watch it in theaters?
No.
Yeah, I'm not either. Maybe if I, gather the gumption.
It's like what you were saying about Wolfman, or sorry, not Wolfman.
Yeah, Wolfman.
Oh yeah, like I don't want to pay for it. If someone offered, maybe, but like I
would prefer to see it in theaters. I prefer to see any new movie in theaters, but
I just don't want to waste time or money on something that I could put that time and effort into, and something that I am actually excited for.
Yeah. But if I have the opportunity to see it in theaters, I will. But if I have the choice, I won't.
Yeah.
What was the next thing we talked about? We talked about the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Went on a ramble about video games. Probably not going to buy the Switch. I might try it out if I get the opportunity.
I mean, if that comes out at a time where I can afford it, yeah, I might just buy it for the same reasons I was going to buy the first one. But if I don't think that the gap is worth it, then I might just buy the first one.
Yeah, I might just get the OLED one.
Sure.
It's just that bigger white one.
Oh yeah, that's the one I was looking at.
Yeah, the nicer screen and whatnot.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm probably gonna have it plugged in to the TV most of the time anyway.
And I would probably only play it with other people, aka my family.
Yeah. We talked about game platforms. We talked about the the blood of the Dawn Walker.
Yeah, whatever that's called. Looks cool.
Pretty, yeah. That's definitely on my radar.
Hell yeah.
I'm excited for that. We talked about Wolfman.
Mm-hmm.
Also, probably not gonna. I don't know.
I'm not.
I kind of want to go see it in theaters.
I don't.
I'm gonna say this. I have a lot to do these next couple weeks. If I get if I have that extra chump change to use, I'm gonna go see it in theaters.
Got it.
But if I don't find it worth it, I'm not going to. And yeah, future episodes. I think what we should do next episode, we'll say it now, get ready for it next episode. I think next episode should be, because we talked about it in episode 0, doing movies that we have different opinions about.
Agreed.
Because we tend to rather like movies that a lot of people don't like, or we end up not liking movies that a lot of people do like. And I think that would be an interesting thing to just go through a list.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that one. Gonna get a lot of hate.
Probably.
But bad attention is better than no attention. Just kidding.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
But other than that, any other thoughts?
No. I think today was. I think this was a good start for what.
I mean, it's pretty laid back.
Yeah.
Nothing super crazy or exciting or.
Not super planned.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally like, hey, should we just record an episode? And we did.
Yeah. There's probably things that like I was thinking of along the way that's like, oh, that would be a great thing to talk about. Like we saw Nosferatu recently.
I would like to talk about Nosferatu at some point.
But yeah, we could talk about that another time. Good things. Definitely good things.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I have anything bad to say.
I think you should watch the original one though.
Yeah, I'm down. The only one I don't want to watch is the 87 one.
78.
Oh, 78.
Something like that. Yeah, the Nosferatu is a vampire.
I don't want to watch that one.
Vampire.
But I don't want to watch that one.
It's okay. It's weird.
I'll just watch the original.
That's what matters, is watching that one. Or I would even like to watch Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Francis Ford Coppola's movie.
Yeah.
Because I watched a part of it a long time ago, and
maybe we could have a whole episode just talking about like vampires.
Maybe that's it.
But not next episode.
Maybe the one after.
Maybe.
Because try to keep it when Nosferatu's still relatively in topic.
So we need to get these episodes out of the way soon. Because it's already been a while.
Anyways, I think with that being said, that would be a good time to call it.
Yep.
Thank you to anyone who stuck around this long and watched. As far as we know, this is just going to be on YouTube for now. But we do plan on potentially getting it on Spotify and other podcast.
I'm gonna see if there's a way. I haven't looked too far into it, but if there's a way for us to like post it on like Spotify.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's going to grow and spread in the near future. But as of right now, our home base is going to be on YouTube because that's what we know.
Yeah.
And with that being said, whether it's YouTube or if you're watching this later or listening to it later on other platforms, a like is great. A review helps. Podcasts grow best by word of mouth.
Yeah.
So just, if you know anyone who likes geeky or nerdy conversations and just needs something to listen to with annoying background noise the whole time, let them know to come to the Innerd podcast. And until next time, we will see you guys later. See you.